good morning from Vietnam. Thanks a lot for joining our show, Jennifer.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. It's going to be our great honor if you can have to introduce to, who you are to our audience. Can you do that for us, please?
Absolutely. So I'm somebody who wears multiple hats. One of those is I was a military officer for almost 27 years in the United States Navy.
Mm.
I'm also an engineer. I'm a high-end engineering seismologist. I own my own company. And then my third hat is I am a public speaker, and I want to go out and help others, really develop who they are and become better leaders themselves. So those are the three hats that I've been wearing for the last several years.
Wow, Jennifer, we really admire all the achievements that you've been having, and that's why I say, okay, I would love to bring you to the show. For us to understand that that your journey, we're gonna bring you all the way back to when you were young, right? So when you were young, what did you dream about life, and and what you're gonna do when you grow up?
So it really started when I was about 10 years old.
Oh.
And I wanted to buy the Barbie dream house. But I didn't want the dream house for Barbie. I wanted it for me.
Oh.
And I took this thing apart and reconfigured it and reconstructed it just like over and over and over again. I mean, Barbie never actually got to live in the house because it was always under construction.
Mm.
And that was one of those moments as I look back at my life where I realized that I love to build.
Oh.
That's what I love to do. I love to create things and I love to build things. And I went through all of my math and my science, and that is just one of those items that just sparks my interest.
Mm.
I didn't know what an engineer was whenever I was a kid, but as I look back on my life, I was like, yes, that was the track that I definitely took to be an engineer in my life. And it's something that I've held on to and I absolutely love doing because I get to build and I get to create.
Wow. So the love of building and creating something has been with you since the age of 10. And then how that journey happened after that, though?
I went to Texas A&M.
Uh-huh.
I got my bachelor's in ocean engineering,
Mm.
which is a lot like civil engineering, but actually on the water.
Mm.
From there, I went on to the United States Navy, and I was a civil engineer corps officer.
Mm.
And so with that, I got to build all over the world. Whenever I was on active duty, I was in Japan, I was in Alaska. I got to do drilling and blasting in Alaska. That was so much fun. And I mean, it really is a blast. But it was so much fun to just get out there and create things. I was in Puerto Rico, and then I met this fabulously handsome guy while I was in Guam, and wound up getting married. And then we wound up going permanently to San Francisco for many years. I went and did construction management. I rebuilt the 2 runways at the San Jose airport. And then I decided, you know what, I need to go back to school and do a little bit more. I went to UC Berkeley and wound up getting my master's and PhD in civil engineering and in seismology. So now instead of chasing, runways and things like that, now I chase earthquakes and make sure that there's dams and nuclear power plants and buildings and bridges that are ready for the next one so that we can make sure that we're all sustainable.
I'm curious, back then when you finished your degree at the University of Texas, right? And then why did you choose to a career in the U.S. Navy, though?
I had a lot of angst, so I had to get out and I had to do something. I was looking at a lot of my friends that they were ocean engineers, and they just went down to Houston and they were getting regular jobs in the gas and pipeline industry. And I just thought, you know what, I need to go out and I need to see the world. There's so much more out there and I have to go see it. And that's when I was introduced to the United States Navy and what they do and where they build all over the world. And that's what I decided to go into. So just to be clear, I don't go on those big gray floating things. No, I go out to a base and I build the base and go down the road and do it again. But I've had the ability to go all over the world, pretty much every continent at this point, to go and do some type of construction.
Sometimes you went into building bridges during the Iraq wars also, and then were you afraid back then, though?
I was afraid,
Ah.
but I had a mission, and I knew that I had a really good team around me.
Mm.
We built, the second longest flotation bridge over the Euphrates River.
Mm.
And yeah, it is kind of scary because we had insurgents that were going around and, they wanted to kill us. But I knew that I had a team that was very strong, that were really good at defense.
Mm.
And how exciting is it to build the second largest flotation bridge, like almost in the world? And so that's what we concentrated on, is we concentrated on making sure that our perimeter was always safe. And then at the same time, like, we were doing incredible work, with this flotation bridge. So was I scared? Yes, and I think that if you're not a little bit scared, then you're probably complacent, and that's usually when bad things happen. And so, yes, I was definitely always just like a little bit on edge, just not only for myself, but for my entire team, to make sure that they were safe.
Wow. Jennifer, you've been wearing three hats over the years, right? And all of the hats that you're wearing contribute a lot to the people that you're leading, and that have a lot of impact on the people that gonna lead other people. So over the past 27 years at the U.S. Navy, and then what did it teach you, so that you can proudly share with our audience?
Absolutely. One of the things that it taught me is I need to be more self-aware. Whenever I was a very young officer, I got myself into a lot of trouble because I was trying to be somebody that I was not. It wasn't successful. I didn't stand out. And I had to really look in on myself and what I was doing to be a better leader. And like I said, I'd messed up pretty badly, in those first couple of years, because I was trying a leadership style that wasn't mine. Everybody around me, they were yellers. And I'm not a yeller. I'm very empathetic. I like to listen. I like to pull a team together and get all of their ideas, and maybe we can come up with a better strategy. It wasn't until I got a mentor that recognized this and said, "Hey, you're leading the wrong way." And he basically made me sit down and think about, what am I good at? I'm good at listening. I'm good at trying to get everybody on the same page and pull their ideas. And that's when things really started to click. But it wasn't until that time when I started to become more self-aware that didn't really happen. And that's what I've used throughout my entire career. I just was able to retire as a Commodore of a regiment of 1,800 people. And I've kept that with me, is that I know what my strengths are. And I think that there's people out there and they feel so uncomfortable with the way that they're having to lead other people. They're probably doing it wrong. Really take a step back for a minute and understand who you are and what your strengths are. And then you can apply those going forward. But if you're trying to be somebody that you're not, you know what? Everybody's going to see right through you. You're probably going to lose the trust of the people around you. So take that step back and really self-analyze who you are and what those strengths will be.
Wow. And a lot of people, a lot of business leaders and managers have to wear different kind of, mask in their face, so that if from the inside they can be a very different person, but in the outside they want to make sure that because of the hierarchy in the organization, that makes them distance from other people. So now you're saying that we need to be knowing ourselves, and then to make sure that we're leading with our self-authenticity, right? How can we help those business those leaders and managers to break all of that, and start leading from the inside out?
They have to start somewhere. I have a great mentor, and he's always like, this is a really big problem, but you have to start somewhere. And so I like to equate it almost like to camouflage. Because I wore camouflage my entire time in the military. It's like, just start taking a little bit of camouflage off at a time. If you're a leader and you're out there and you feel like you said that you have to mask yourself up whenever you go into the office, maybe start small. Maybe understanding what your strengths are, start to open up just a little bit and see how people react. And then once you get to that point, then start opening up a little bit more and a little bit more. And everybody's in a different stage in their life, and they might not feel comfortable, taking all the camouflage off at once to be their true self. And that's okay. Sometimes we need a little bit of that to feel more secure or to feel more confident. And I think in those cases, I think it's absolutely okay. But we have to try. We have to start somewhere. Start thinking about small little ways. And, for one day, just say, I'm going to be a little bit more open. Or maybe I have a sense of humor that I've never shown anybody. Maybe I take and just tell a joke. Just one little piece. You don't have to do it all at once, but you have to start somewhere.
Just start small and then see how it goes, how it makes you feel comfortable, and then expand a little bit more, right?
Right, exactly.
And then you also talk a lot about knowing your team also, because and then you have been managed a very large team when you're as a Navy, and work with a lot of clients and in complex projects, so work with a lot of teams also. So over the years, what is your definition of the good team though?
The definition of a good team is a team that can really work autonomously. And that's something that you really have to work to get to. It's not something that's going to come overnight. And a lot of times you need to start building trust. Once you have trust, then you can start to basically give a little bit of control over to each one of your personnel so that they know that they own that piece of the project. And so once you get to the point where everybody can work autonomously and they don't have to keep running back to you to ask questions, but they have ownership, they have skin in the game, and they have buy-in, that's a successful team right there. That is a good team. And that's what we all need to try to strive for. But the way to get there is you have to start to trust your team members. If you're trying to hold on to everything yourself, you know what? They don't have any buy-in. You have to let go of a little bit of control.
And how can we help the leaders to let go of that control and start to trust more in the teams though?
The best way that you can do this is, for instance, just give them a deadline. Meet this deadline. Okay, they meet the deadline. All right, we're good. Okay, then maybe start giving them small aspects of different parts of the project that they have to analyze or design or complete, and just start small. See how they do. And what, they might have to come back and ask questions. Maybe they don't know how. Maybe they need resources, whatever it might be. But just let them have that small piece. And then once you feel confident with that, then start with a bigger piece and a larger piece. And then you can keep expanding on those, what I call left and right lateral limits or buffers, that they can start to work autonomously. Because you've built the trust, they know that they can do it, they know what they need to do, and you know what, they can own it, and they're excited about it, because it's like, hey, this is my part of the project. I want to make sure that it's successful. But you have to start small. If you don't feel comfortable letting them have the whole project at once, start with different aspects.
And you also came up with the definition, what's called the model team, right? And what is that? How did you come up with that, and what does that mean? Can you share with our audience, please?
Absolutely. So a model team is motivated, dedicated, and loyal. And so a motivated team is one, like I was just talking about, they own that piece of the project. They are ready to go. They own it. They want to see it to be absolutely successful. So that's a motivated team. A dedicated team is a team that knows where they need to go to get to the finish line. They will do everything in their power to make sure that, we're getting all the way through all of our wickets, all of our milestones. They're committed to that project. That last is a loyal team. All around the world, we have the Great Resignation, or the Great Reshuffle, or whatever we want to call it. And people are leaving corporations left and right because they don't feel valued. They don't feel trusted. They're not given autonomy or the flexibility that they need. And so those people are leaving. So what we need are loyal teams. And we have to do that. We have to get to it by being trustworthy. We have to stand up for them. We have to give them the resources and the time, whatever they need to be successful. And if we're able to give them trust, or giving them autonomy and the flexibility or whatever it is that they crave, then they are loyal and they're not going to leave your corporation. So motivated, dedicated, and loyal is really a model team.
And For you've been working in the Navy for a long time. You have your own organization. You also work with a lot of business leaders around the world through your your work and through the motivation speeches you've been giving for organizations. Uh, and if we want to build a team and that can be motivated, can be dedicated and loyal, so um, a lot of things need to change from the traditional way of leading people onto the new way of leading people, right? And then the first thing that you say earlier was to know yourself. But what else that we need to to embrace, to adapt, and then to change so that we can stop the great resignation and start to build a better workforce around the world?
So I kind of break it into three pieces. Number one, we have to know ourselves, which we talked about.
Okay.
Number two, we really have to know and understand our team.
Okay.
And one of the best ways that we can really get to know and understand our team is by asking questions. I always ask people, do you know the names of all the people on your team? The answer should be yes. And then I ask them, well, do you know their significant others' names? Do you know if they have dogs or cats? And then the most important question we have to ask them is, what are their goals and aspirations? What do they want to be? What do they need? What resources do they need in order to get to their goals and aspirations? And as we're going through this and we're really trying to get to know our team, those are the foundations from there. Now, we also want to start to build trust. And I talked a little bit about this before, is that once we get to know our team, we need to start to trust our team. And we have to show trust first in order to get trust in return. And it goes back to making sure that we're communicating with them. When we're putting out information, everybody perceives information in different ways. Some people want really super long emails. Some people want to just get in the chat and discuss what needs to be done. So we need to understand each one of our team members, how do they best communicate and how do they receive information. We also need to actively listen. I'm one of the worst people about this. While you're talking to me, I'm already thinking about here's how I want to answer. We need to slow down, take all the information in, and then we can formulate our answer from that. If we're not actively listening, we're only getting really about half of what they do. And so these are some of the items that really start to build trust with your team. And especially if you're vulnerable enough with them and say, you know what, I need to understand a little bit more about what you're doing. Maybe you have a new team member, or maybe you have a very seasoned team member. Go and sit down and just talk to them. What are your processes? What do I need to know as the leader in order to make sure that the project is successful? We need to be listening and be vulnerable enough with them. That's what's really going to bring in a lot of that trust.
And Jennifer, thanks a lot for sharing the three things: it's know self, know teams, and then build trust, right? And recently, there's a lot of experts around the world also working on the subject of open up the people, because over the years the traditional leadership has made people to be keeping things for themselves and not really open up. So, and then opening up is a very big aspect of trust building, right? So since you talk a lot about trust and you've been helping people doing that, how can we help the people to be more open to so that we can work better with them in trust building process?
And that's really a big piece. It's just being vulnerable. And that's hard for a lot of people, especially if you've been in a leadership position for a long time, to just be vulnerable and say, I don't know, or what do you need, or something along those lines. And we have to physically think about, how can I be just a little bit more vulnerable around my people. And we have to listen, and we have to ask questions in order to get to that. So I would say that's basically a big part of that, is it's letting go a little bit of that control and saying, hey, you know what? I might need your help. I might need more information. I don't know everything. I know what I don't know. Those are really parts of it.
Wow. Well, I want to share a personal experience related to the works that I've been doing over the years, right? And then I have very, very good bosses around the world, like and they're amazing leaders. Sometimes the only issue is they're very busy. A lot of times they came to us and say, okay, I want to be, like showing our cares and stuff like that. They need to know us in the core of our, personal things and stuff. But with the business transactional kicked in, and then they forgot, the results that we needed to be successful, the support that we need to be, to have from them so that we can do the job better, and they forgot about us, our aspirations. They forgot about even our family, how many children that we are having, and sometimes that makes us feel like we don't matter, right? So
Right.
I want to find a balance point between what the leaders really want to build good with their teams and not over promising. How can we make sure that that piece is important? How can we help the leader not to fall into that trap, Jennifer?
I had a great boss at one of my previous companies. His name was Rudy. And he had note cards that he made on every single person within the company. And anytime he would come out to a different office, he would fill out more on that card about what that person was working on. Or, for instance, he knew my husband's name. He knew what projects I was working on. He knew where I graduated college. He knew what some of my goals and aspirations were. Now, whenever he would fly out to our office on the plane, he would sit through his little stack and review what he wrote for every single person.
Physical one.
And the first thing that he did was, after looking at those note cards, he would come into the office and he would sit down with pretty much everybody, remembering what he wrote on the note cards, and he would have a conversation with people. And that's what he did every single time that he visited one of the offices. I mean, isn't that a leader that we would want to follow?
Yep.
But that's the model that he did. Now, there's a lot of different ways that we can do that. You can use note cards. You can maybe put notes on your phone or an iPad or other means like that. But start to think about ways that you can get to know your team. And then whenever you re-engage with them, make that the first priority. Hey, how's your wife doing? Hey, I heard that you went out on vacation. And hey, how's that project going, that you were working on? And so you're getting these little details, that, he remembers, because whenever I asked him about it, he said, you know what? You're part of my family. You decided to come and work for my company. To me, you're part of my family, and that's very special to me.
Wow.
If we have a boss like that, are you not going to be loyal? Are you not going to be dedicated? Are you not going to be motivated to do everything that you can for a boss like that? But that was what he did. Is the very first thing that he did is he engaged with everybody on a personal level, and then we got to work.
Wow. And earlier our conversation, there was a turning point in your career when you had a mentor that helped you to figure out that your way of working, your way of leading was not effective, right? And so there are a lot of blind spots that each of us are having. And besides a mentor, is there any other ways that we can, you can suggest us to seek help so that we can, getting better at what we do?
There's a couple different ways. And one of the ways, for instance, just being more self-aware, go and take some of the personality tests online.
Okay.
Myers-Briggs, Clifton Strengths, DISC assessments, those types of tests. And trust me, I was the biggest skeptic. There's no way this is going to tell me anything about who I am, because I'm an individual. There's no way. But when I got the report back, I was like, oh my God, it totally nailed me. Yep. It totally nailed me. I mean, I knew what my strengths were. I kind of knew what my weaknesses were. But it showed me what my blind spots were. And that was one of the biggest things that I got out of this is this is stuff that I need to now bring to my conscience when I'm having discussions with people. Whenever I say this, it can be perceived in a different way. And so just looking at those blind spots has really helped me try to be a better person and also a better leader. I would say also, just try to be proficient. Go out and read an article. One article, that's it, every week. It could be a professional article. It could be a personal development article. Just those types of things, and just start to take that in. To me, those are some of the best ways. If you can't have a mentor, or if you don't know where a mentor would come from, these are some of the ways that you can work on your own personal development.
Wow. So take a personality assessment to know our blind spots and stuff like that, and reading more so that we can be more proficient at what we do, right? And from the knowing to the doing, there's a huge gap in there. There's a lot of us know, our blind spot. A lot of us took the personality assessments already, but then inside of us like a green, yellow, and red button, and sometimes we hit the wrong button all the time. So, with your experience, how can we help ourselves to make sure that we hit the right button, when it needed?
I would say, and this is going to sound really old school, but sit down and start to think about some of the situations that you're in. There's nothing new under the sun. There's always going to be different situations, and start to think about, okay, how do I want to react in these situations? And start to write those down. Like, for instance, okay, I have a report coming up. It's a tight budget, tight deadline. It's going to be tight. And so for me, I know I'm going to be super focused, and I'm going to just put everything I can into it. But I know one of my blind spots is that if I do that, then I ignore everything and everyone around me. And so I consciously think about, okay, when I'm in this position, this is what I need to do. It's okay to be super focused, but I need to come up for air, and I need to check on my team. I need to check on, what I'm doing in other things. And so really starting to go through and think about all the different situations that you can be in, that those blind spots might come and bite you. Start to think about, how should I react in these situations?
Wow. Okay.
I mean, I'll tell you, I had a boss in the military, and he was awful. I mean, he was about as awful of a boss that you can absolutely possibly get. And I learned a lot from him. And what I mean by this is, I would watch how he would react in certain situations. And I would kind of go back to my office, and I would catalog and think, how would I have reacted in that situation? How would I want to react in those situations? And a lot of times those were different answers, because I'm also a little bit of a hothead, and so I would want to like snap and react. And I think, no, that would probably be more like his reaction. I want to react in this manner. And so, and there's nothing new under the sun, like I said. So those situations are going to come up, and those situations did come up for me. And I had the choice. I could either go with my impulse and snap and react, or I could think about the ways that I had already thought about and said, this is the way a good leader would, react in this situation. And so, but it took a lot of preparation in order to get to that point.
Wow. So it means that you have to slow down and take one step back to look at the situations, and then, ask yourself, what choice do you have for the futures, and then decide the best option that works for you and for the people that you lead, right?
Absolutely. You know what? Stopping in any kind of situation is okay. You just have to start back up again. Don't just stop and freeze. But in all situations, it's usually okay to take at least 30 seconds to 45 seconds to stop and think through all of your different alternatives. That's one of the things that I've definitely had to learn, is that because I want to, just snap and respond and do what I need to do and just jump right in there. Stop. Take a step back. Think about the alternatives. All right, that probably wasn't the best idea. I know what I need to do. And then act.
Wow.
No one is going to look at you differently, because you're actually thinking about how you want to make a good decision.
And a lot of the works you do now boil down to the word thinking. Okay, so my wife and I, we've been in the quest of asking people how they think, because we see the ability for thinking for the people around us is not increasing, but actually it's decreasing. So each time that we meet an expert, those who can have deep thinking, those who think a lot and have big influence on others, we ask this question: how do you think? How do you how do you process the thinking for you, Jennifer?
That one's hard. Because like I said, I'm more of a snap decision maker, and it is something that I've had to train myself to do. Basically, I think of little triggers, I think of questions that people ask, and I say, you know what, I just need to stop for a second, and I need to engage a different way of thinking. And how I do it, I'm not really sure if I can really pinpoint how I do that, but I think just the act of just stopping, taking a deep breath, trying to calm myself down, that's when the thinking starts. And that might be different from everybody. And so you might need to find your own way to realize how you need to just stop and think before you react. But for me, mine is like, I just have to like, I'll stop, stop, assess, figure out what's going on, and then make a decision at that point.
Wow. Thank you very much. So stop and have some time to think about it, so that you can think something that's straightforward for right. Jennifer, I have a few more questions for you, and first is regarding to the works that you do. Is keep in getting more influence on the lives of others. So when you take on the new head as the motivational speaker and then keynote speaker, why did you choose to have your influence in that direction, though?
That's a great question. It all really started with leadership. Whenever I went to, I'll just start. In the military, they teach teamwork from like day one. You're standing there and there is a drill instructor literally screaming and spitting in your face like on day one, and they teach you all about leadership and teamwork. Now, whenever I left active duty and went into the reserves, I had a civilian career. And whenever I got to that civilian career, I realized that no one was really getting any leadership or teamwork training. And I thought that was really sad, because I was starting to look at my bosses, my immediate bosses, and they weren't that great. And I thought, well, this isn't good, because what they were doing is they were promoting people because of their technical acumen. They were really good technically, but they didn't have any leadership skills because they'd never been taught. Now they would start to send them to some leadership skills after that, but to me it's like, if you're already there, it's almost like you're lost cause, because it's going to take a lot to try to reverse a lot of what you started to think a leader was. And I started a real grassroots type of leadership training whenever I was at the corporation. I looked at several of my subordinates and my teammates, and we started just having little leadership drills. And the reason why I've decided to become more of a motivational speaker is I've seen this in so many different industries, where people are being promoted on their technical acumen and what they do, and they're not great bosses. And so then they moved up, and then somebody else comes and takes their position who has still no leadership skills, and it just perpetuates over and over and over again. But if we can get at the core and we can start helping people be better leaders from the beginning, imagine what your corporation is going to look like if they have good leadership. Yes, you can have good leadership and a good technical acumen at the same time. All of our younger generation, man, they are quick. They are bringing things on, and they are hungry for this. And so if I can help them just be better leaders where they are, so whenever they are finally promoted to where they are, man, they are going to kill it. They are going to be so awesome. And then that's going to start to perpetuate as these good leadership skills within a corporation.
Wow. And I think that a lot of organization has realized, that talent development program has issue at the very beginning already. So now, I always believe that we are human. We face a problem, we meet problem, but then we always find solutions. So as long as we realize that there is a problem, there will be a way for us to figure it out. So thanks a lot for re-emphasizing it. So not all, teach leadership from the very beginning, so that, it's in the people's head and the mind already. So when they get into that position level, then they be able to, start to pick it up and then to use it instead of start from zero, right?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And also, I feel like at this point in my career, I've had a successful military career. I've had a success in my engineering business. I want to give back. I want to help
Beautiful.
others.
Beautiful.
I really do. And I'm very passionate about that. It's like, I want to help others be the best that they can be. And so that's what I'd like to really dedicate most of the rest of my life to.
Wow. And that is the next question that I would like to ask you. If you had a very successful career, and then if you want to take a look at all of that years and come to some points that you can summarize what helped you to be that successful in what you're doing, what would be those things that you can share?
I think I feel very confident about like how I retired from the U.S. Navy. I felt like I really made a difference there in a lot of people's lives. On the engineering side, wow, I've been able to be part of some incredible projects, and just to see them built is really exciting. And then on the motivational speaking side, you know what, if I have just one person that I can help and they're successful, you know what, that's a success. And if I can have 2 or 3, you know what, I feel like that's like icing on the cake. But if there's, just that one person to say, you know what, this helped me and this changed, the course of my life so that I could be successful.
Wow.
That's success right there.
Wow. Amazing. The last question, Jennifer. So we know about the past, we know about the present, what you're doing. I always want to know, if there is anything that you're working on that exciting and you want to share with us, so we can be celebrating with you in advance.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one of the really exciting things that I'm working on right now is, and I'll just start back a little bit. Back in April, I was part of a talk at the United States Society on Dams. And yes, there actually is a society for people who own and operate dams. But they asked me to come in and give a talk about sort of my trials and tribulations within the industry. And the name of the session was called Women Who Give a Damn, which I think is rather clever.
Yep.
Well, the thing is that there was somebody from the United Nations that heard about this talk. And they got really excited about it because they realized that there's a lot of women in the dam industry and they need help. And we have different regions of the world that need more women in the dam industry. And they have asked me and a couple of others to come up with some training plans to help all of these women, like in the Middle East and in Africa, to help them in the industry. I mean, to me, that's so exciting. It's the United Nations. This is a global effort to try to help women in the dam industry be more successful.
Yep.
Like that's like hit the home run right there. Like that is, to me, that's just so exciting. It's like, wow, I can be a part of this larger effort.
Wow. Congratulations for that, Jennifer. You see, the intention at the beginning for you is if you can change one person at a time, 2 person at a time, and that's good enough already. If you can make them successful, love what they do. Now now it's expanding to the global scale, and we're so admiring for all of that, Jennifer. And we wish that program to be a huge success, so that more and more you can contribute to the people around us and under your influence, and together we can build a better supervisor, manager, leaders around us, and we can make the workforce a happy place for everybody. So when we go home having dinner at home, it's going to be a beautiful conversation about works, about life, and imagine how the world can be a lot more beautiful if we can do that, right? So and then we need the people like you a lot more. And Jennifer, I am practicing this from an expert that joined to my program just 2 days ago. His name is Kevin Monroe. So I need to say this to you. I'm grateful for you, and here's why. Here's because you spend your time to join my program, and you share your stories, and you also share a lot of advices that we and our audience can think, reflect, and apply to our lives. And I'm thank you for that. Okay.
Well, thank you. And you know, I want to say thank you also. Number one, I'm honored to be on your program, and thank you for doing what you're doing. You know, you're giving inspiration to others. I just realize the impact that you're having on different people, probably also globally, not just in your country, but sort of all over the world who are listening to this, you know, on a repeated basis, that you're helping all these different people. So I want to say thank you for all your efforts also.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you in Vietnam one day if you travel here, and definitely if my wife and I visit in America, then the next time we will let you know, and if we can have a cup of coffee together. That is how beautiful the life is to us. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. No, I look forward to seeing you.
Me too. Jennifer, I need to say goodbye to you for now. Have a beautiful afternoon and enjoy September and enjoy the last day of August and then have the last 4 months of the year beautifully. All right.
It is. It's been a beautiful, beautiful year.
Yeah. Bye bye for now.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.